Aurora Rose Brynhild never imagined the kingdom's battles would come so close to her home. Since she was a child, she'd lived among the trees, with only her grandmother for company. But her grandmother was gone now, and she'd been alone for over 2 years. Had it really been that long since she'd spoken to anyone other than the dark sorceress? Her grandmother told her people were dangerous. When she was a child, the subject came up frequently in conversations with her father. He would leave her for weeks, and then one day, he never returned. She knew who'd taken him. The sorceress over the wall, the Draconian queen. She held Aurora's life in the palm of her hand, never letting her experience true freedom. Aurora pressed herself against the tree in her perch high in the branches as men trampled through her beautiful woods, leaving blood in their path. Most weren't followed. Those they'd fought stayed at the edge of the forest. Something caught her eye, and she leaped from one branch to another until she could get a closer look. 2 men huddled over a third, trying to lift him. Their voices reached her. "He's dying." One looked to the other. A scream tore through the air, followed by a mass of large men in leathers breaking through the trees at the edge of the woods. Soon, they'd spot the dying man and his companions. "They can't find him." The first man lifted his eyes. "We have to lead them away." The second shook his head. "And just abandon him?" The first stood and gripped the injured man under the arms, hauling him into the thick underbrush. He covered him. "He needs a healer." The second man gripped his sword. The first man met his eyes. "And we'll get him to one. We won't let him down. But we won't be any good to him if we're overrun. Don't you think the Gallian king would love to have him as a prisoner?" Together, both men turned and ran back the way they'd come. Aurora leaned against the tree, listening to the sounds of battle, waiting for the men to return. After a few moments, she gripped the branch in front of her and dropped down onto a lower one before jumping to the pine-covered ground. She approached where they'd hidden the man and ripped aside the bush covering him. The face that greeted her was younger than she'd expected. Dirt and blood streaked across his tanned skin and into his sun-bleached hair. His eyelids twitched, but didn't open. Aurora bit her lip, considering the man. She felt for injury, finding a hole in his leather tunic. Wadded fabric lay pressed against his skin, bulging behind his shirt. Yet blood continued to run free. They were right about one thing. This man needed a healer, and he needed one fast. Glancing up to make sure no other soldiers remained in this part of the woods, she made a decision. Her father would scold her for her compassion. Her grandmother would worry, trying to hide the pride on her face. She could picture them now, waiting for her at the cottage.